Hi, I'm King Grossman, today's host of YourTown, and I'll be having a monthly segment on YourTown. I'm very, very happy and proud to be doing this. I'm an author. I have a current book out called Letters to Alice, and it's in Barnes & Noble and Amazon and on the shelves. So I'm happy about that, but I'm really happy about this program because what we intend to do here is explore the arts in this area, in Monterey, Carmel, Monterey Bay area, and really see what's happening in this community in that regard. And we've got a rich reservoir. I'm really looking forward to it. To kind of set the tone for what I want this program to be, I want to read my favorite poem about the creative process that I've ever come across. It's by Wendell Berry. It's called To Hayden Carruth. Dear Hayden, when I read your book, I was aching in head, back, heart, and mind, and aching with your aches added to my own, and yet for joy I read on without stopping, made eager by your true mastery, wit, sorrow, and joy, each made true by the others. My reading done, I swear I am feeling better. Here in Port Royal, I take off my hat to you up there in Munsville, in your great dignity of being necessary. I swear it appears to me you're one of the rare fellows who may finally amount to something. What shall I say? I greet you at the beginning of a great career? No. I greet you at the beginning. For we are either beginning or we are dead. And let us have no careers, lest one day we be found dead in them. I greet you at the beginning, that you have made authentically in your art, again and again. So with that, let's let this monthly segment be about these great beginnings in our art. And my guest today is someone who knows all about this life, Louis Lebherz. Hi Louis, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Well, Louis is an international opera singer, was a star throughout his time of beginnings in opera, and I would love for him to tell us about that. But Louis is also a very active member of the Carmel community. He's currently teaching voice lessons privately. He's the music critic for the Performing Arts Monterey Bay group, performingartsmontereybay.com. He is a lecturer at Cal State Monterey Bay in the Ooster Lifelong Institute. He's also a music director at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish Catholic Church in Carmel Valley.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that more too. And Louis is also my golf buddy, and we have a lot of fun on the golf course. So Louis, start us off by just telling us a little bit about your rich breadth of time in opera, and then leading that into now, okay, this is it today.
Well, it all started kind of when I was born. I always knew I could sing, but I grew up in this enormous, large family. My mother had 5 boys in 6 years. I was the second, which, by the way, all 5 boys now are 69, 68, 67, 65, and 63. Then she had a couple of girls after that. But my father was a gynecologist in the military, so we moved and we moved and we moved and we moved. And there was never any time to really settle into anything. But I always knew that when we were driving in the car that my parents would sing, and I sang with them. And we would go to see my grandmother, and she had a piano, and I would sit at the piano and play. But nobody seemed to notice. It was more like, well, he's not going to be a problem. He's sitting at the piano. So I knew that I could sing, but I didn't know it was a gift. Right. But when I went to college, I wanted to meet girls because I'd always gone to boys' schools. So I joined the choir, and the lady auditioned me and said, "Where did you learn to sing like that?" And I said, "To sing like what?" And she said, "Well, who do you study with?" And I said, "You can study voice." And she said, "Son, you have no idea what's going to happen to you. You're going to have a great career." And she was right. I went to Chapman University and got my bachelor's degree. Then I went on to Indiana University. I was in the graduate program there, singing in the opera, and the head of the department came up to me in 1974 and said, "Lou," he said, "you don't belong here." And I didn't. I was kind of like, well, where do I belong? He said, "It's time. You need to be working." And so I started work in Memphis, Tennessee in 1974 as the apprentice bass in their program there for 9 months. The first opera that I sang was La Forza del Destino with Martino Arroyo. Later that season, I sang a small role in La Traviata with Beverly Sills, and so it went. It just sort of took off after that. And I sang, I entered the Met auditions. I only got as far as the West Coast finals. I entered the San Francisco auditions, and that's a national audition, and I was one of the winners in that and performed in their program. And then I moved to New York. Well, actually, I moved to Carmel in 1976 because Peter Meckel out at Hidden Valley started an opera company out there with a grant from Carter, you know, the CETA grant, the Comprehensive Employment Training Act. He hired an orchestra, he hired singers, and we did a full season of operas. We did La Boheme, The Barber of Seville, The Magic Flute, and another piece by Conrad Souza called Transformations. Well, part of the deal was you lived at Hidden Valley, you got to take Italian lessons from Dr. De Petra, who was wonderful, Giulio De Petra. And then you also got dance classes. Well, the dance teacher was this lady named Gloria first, and then she only lasted for 2 weeks, and she left, and in came this girl called Gayla Cottrell, and everyone said, "You're going to like Gayla." I really liked Gayla. I married her. I married her.
A local girl.
Almost immediately we got married. We met well, actually it was on Pearl Harbor Day in 1976, and we married on May Day, 1977. So it was quick. We moved to New York City. I got with management in 1978, and after that just started working, and we moved to Europe in 1984, and we worked there for 3 years. And then in 1987, I became the principal bass at the Los Angeles Opera with Placido Domingo. And I worked there until I retired in 2004, plus doing my international career through my management in New York. So
my goodness, what a magnificent ride.
It was, the funny thing is, it was in 2004 when I retired that I looked into a mirror and I said, when did I get old, you know? Because for all those years that you're doing that opera, you play old men, you play young men, you don't really think about who you are because your character is always changing. It's
right.
Talk about beginnings, you know?
That's
you're
right.
always beginning new people. And all of a sudden I settled into the fact that here I am now, you know, 57 years old, time for what I call the third trimester of my life, which is reflection and
a lot of active art.
Well, yeah,
and work. Talk about what you're doing within that too.
Okay, so we moved to Carmel. First thing I started doing was working with the nuns out at the monastery.
Yes.
And I gave them all voice lessons. They started to sing so well. But then the economy collapsed in 2008, so I went to St. Mary's College as the artist in residence up in Moraga. Then we moved on a project with St. Mary's down to San Diego in 2011. We were down there for 4 years. And then my 7-year contract with St. Mary's expired, and we moved back to Carmel, where we now live. When we got back here, the first thing that happened was I got into this thing called the Democratic Old Men's Club. What a great bunch!
What a great name!
Great bunch of guys. And one of them, Malcolm Weintraub, is one of the professors at Cal State Monterey Bay in the Oster Lifelong Learning Institute, which you mentioned. And he asked me if I'd be interested in teaching there as well. And I said, sure. And one thing led to another, and now I lecture out there. I'll be lecturing 3 times in the spring. You know, they do those operas at the theater, you know, at the movie theater from the Metropolitan Opera on Saturday mornings. So for 3 of those in the spring, I'm going to do a lecture from 10:30 until noon at Cal State Monterey Bay. We're doing La Traviata will be the first one. And then we're going to also do Eugene Onegin, and the third one will be their Rosenkavalier in May.
Well, and this is an outreach from your being the music critic that you are.
That's another thing that happened,
For the Performing Arts Monterey Bay.
Scott McClellan asked me about, if I'd be interested in writing a review last summer. I think you went with me to we went and saw Idomeneo
Yes.
at with the Bach Festival, and I wrote a review on it, and he liked it, and now I've become the critic, the music critic for the, which is something I never really thought about, but I love to write, as you know.
Yeah,
So that's turned out to be a lot of fun.
and I'll have to say it's wonderful being your friend in that, because I get to tag along to some of these, which are wonderful, wonderful performances.
Great program.
Yeah.
And then let me see. There's a couple. The working at that church choir came out of having worked with the nuns.
Yes.
I started working there. Of all things, I started working there on Christmas Eve because the girls stepped down and they needed somebody. So I came in, and it's a small choir now, but it's already growing. You know, we're up to 14 singers now, and we're getting a new piano today,
That's
which is
wonderful.
fun. So things are happening out there. And then also I teach in my home studio. I have about 8 or 10 students. I'm not sure how many. I don't keep track because they don't all work every day. But we do a master class on Wednesday afternoons, and they all take private lessons during the week. So,
working with, you were one of the top echelon opera performers, and you worked alongside the others, the household names, of which you were a part of. What I'm trying to get at is, what do you see as commonalities in their creative process? Something that comes through to you as, this is how someone hones their art or honors their art in their, for yourself as well as the others. And then maybe the other part of the question would be, what kind of people were they?
The main thing that you really have to do, first of all, you have to have the gift of the voice, you know. But the thing that all of the great opera singers who I sang with is their ability to sing in different languages. And it's really the responsibility of someone who wants to have a top-level career to have the facility, especially as an American, to sing in French, to sing in Italian, and to sing in German. And so having lived in those places, I was at that advantage. I wasn't at the, I remember one of the hardest things I did was when I went to sing with Scottish opera, and we were doing the Magic Flute, and we were doing it in English. And for an American to have to speak English in Scotland is a lot different than doing it in America.
Right.
So I remember I was saying, he has chosen the path, and the director went, path. I said, oh, excuse me. I said, it's not my language, I said.
How many languages are you comfortable in?
I'm comfortable in Spanish, Italian, and German, and French, and English, of course, and also a dialect of Swiss German, because we lived in Bern, Switzerland, where I was the football coach as well as the bass at the opera. My wife thought it was funny because people would call up and say, is Coach there? And so I learned to speak Swiss German. I also speak a little Portuguese, you know, from having sung in Portugal a few times. But they come and go. You have to actually be there to really speak them best, you know. But I read in Italian, and I read in French, and I read in German.
And were they fun to work with? Were they warm, or were they off to themselves, or was it a mix?
You know, they talk about the prima donnas, you know, but they're artists. Yeah. They're artists. They're working, and there's a vulnerability that you feel when you let your own ego go and become another role.
Yes.
Once you finish that, it's like you've stood naked in front of people, you know, and there's almost an unabashed kind of, not shame, but, you know, it's like, oh, vulnerability, exactly. And I know that when I would do a performance, the first thing I would do when I got home was, you know, you've emptied yourself of emotion. The first thing I would do, of course, would be to eat, you know. And then get on the telephone, you know, because I couldn't sleep till 2 in the morning. So you'd call the wife in California, where it was 3 hours earlier, you know.
Talk you down.
Talk me down, exactly. It was, but in real life, unbelievable people. They're all very, very intelligent, very, very creative people. I can't think of any that I wouldn't, you know, call my good friends after having worked with them, because we've all undressed ourselves emotionally in front of each other, you know, and that's important.
That develops a bond that's unlike
it certainly does. It certainly does.
Okay, so now we've had some fun discussions about, let's say, revolutionizing education and really teaching arts ahead of everything.
Oh boy.
And we're in this current day time where the arts are being beleaguered in many programs across the country. Tell me about your ideas on education and how it really worked in your own life, please.
Well, I can't really say how it worked in my own life as a student because the world has really changed since I graduated from high school in 1965, right? But we raised three daughters, three very successful daughters. One is an attorney, one is an environmental activist, and the other one is, she's going into a doctoral program in medical anthropology, which I think is very interesting, you know. Yeah. But what's going on right now in our country that's causing so many of the economic problems and the unemployment? They say there's no unemployment, but my feeling is if you're working for minimum wage somewhere because you just have to do that, you're not employed. Right. You're employed when you're doing something that you love. And very few people do that. Very few people do that. And then there's people that have worked in factories that are being replaced by robotics. The computer industry is, so eventually there's going to be less and less jobs. So my feeling is that instead of teaching people mathematics and English and science and computer technology, why not teach them music and art and painting and literature? And they will, I think that they'll learn everything that they need to learn in order to survive, you know?
You've shared with me that once you understood that about your art and had a way to express it and deepen it, that the other academic subjects you just flew in once that happened to you.
When I was in high school, I was in an all-boys school with no music. Very strange. And I had the lowest grade point average in the whole school. I had a 1.4 grade point average when I graduated from high school. Yet I got a perfect score on the SAT test in mathematics because it was very sensible to me. But when I went to college and started majoring in music, all of a sudden I understood history for the first time through music, you know, from Pythagoras to the Middle Ages and the Renaissance and the Baroque. And I never really cared that much about it, but now I cared about it. I love history now. I know that mathematical skills develop immediately through music. Yes. Your technical skills develop through drawing and through writing. I mean, this is...
So much opens up.
Exactly.
All right, now we got to switch the subject, and we're down to the last 30 seconds here, Louis.
Okay.
I want to talk about golf.
Oh, dear.
Okay. So now, you and I, we play some pretty. We got to have our $2 Nassau games.
That's right.
And we go at it.
Right.
And we have a lot of fun. Talk to me about the golf scene in Carmel and what you like about it and don't like about it.
Well, what I don't like about it is that there is no golf scene in Carmel anymore. Thank you very much for taking away our two golf courses.
Yes, at Rancho.
Right, exactly. However, it's a way of life for we people over 65, I believe. I always like to say it's the only sport left.
All right. Thank you, Louis Lebherz. Thank you for listening and watching.